This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm starting the class as we are discussing the common diseases of dermatology, which you will see day to day. Last time it was psoriasis and scabies were dealt, and today we'll be starting with vitiligo. I think most of you know this disease. This is the most common depigmenting disorder. Vitiligo in Telugu, you all know the common term is bolli. And first definition, vitiligo is a circumscribed, acquired, idiopathic, progressive depigmentation of the skin and hair, which is often familial and is characterized microscopically by an absence of melanocytes. There are many depigmenting or hypopigmentary disorders in skin. We have to remember in which the melanin will be reduced, in which disease the number of cells will be reduced. So in the same way, in vitiligo, the number of melanocytes is reduced. Leukoderma is a generalized term which is applied when we know the exact cause of the depigmentation, that is following burns, chemicals, inflammatory disorders, anything, etc. The normal skin color which all of us have are mainly because of the melanin and carotenoids which are present in the epidermis, and the dermal pigmentation is because of the oxyhemoglobin and reduced hemoglobin. Before knowing more about the disease, I want to just give small information about the melanization, because then you can know where there is defect and which is causing the disease. So the cell of pigmentation in human skin is melanocytes. Melanocytes are present in the basal layer of your skin, epidermis, and the origin of these cells is neuroectodermal. From the neuroectodermal ectoderm, these cells migrate to both cutaneous and extracutaneous spaces also. Extracutaneous, as we know, eye, the iris, and brain. Uh, and in skin, they come to epidermis, mucosa membrane, and appendageal also. In appendages also, they reach the follicle, and it can be non-follicular areas also. Normal melanization, epidermal, it is an epidermal melanocyte. It is attached to the basement membrane, as I told, and they rarely divide, and they require basic fibroblast growth factor for their growth and multiplication. And their main function of melanin is endogenous sunscreen. That's why I think this is a common point. You know, that's why in Australia or wherever there is a ozone depletion or direct UV radiation, those people have high cancers compared to Indian skin tone, because we have more amount of melanin. Lighter skin tones are more at the risk for cancers compared to the darker skin tones. And response to the injury, if any response to this melanocyte by any injury, it can be thermal, chemical, the outcome is unpredictable. Sometimes the cell can reform and sometimes it won't, and it will be destroyed. When coming into the hair, the melanocyte is present in the hair bulb and also in the mid follicular and upper follicular area. In the hair bulb, the melanocyte which is present in the hair bulb is functional, and it is dendritic like all the melanocytes. And the melanocytes which are present in the mid follicle and upper follicle, they are dopa negative, and they are normally not functional. They are amelanotic, non-dendritic, and only after any trauma they get active. And normal melanization, melanosomes are bound inside the melanocyte. Membrane bound melanosomes are present. These melanosomes, they form the pigment. and this is the site of production and storage of melanin. Membrane prevents they are membrane bound because there will be they prevent the diffusion of intermediate toxic products of melanin synthesis into the melanocyte, which is harmful to the melanocyte if released. And etiopathogenesis, as I told, there are many causes for vitiligo, and the cause is approximately always not known like exactly. And the main cause is decrease in the number of melanocytes, that is melanocytopenia. This can be due to end organ disease, or primarily or secondarily due to autoantibodies or neural secretions which harm the melanocytes. In case of end-organ disease, there is apoptosis or self-destruction of the melanocytes, and the cause can be increased amount or diffusion of the intermediate products or increased oxidative stress, and it can be autoimmune. In autoimmune, the vitiligo antigen, vitiligo bit 40, 75, and 90 are the vitiligo auto antigens present in the body. Epidermal melanocytes express more vitiligo antigen than the hair follicle. That's why when you see a lesion also, hair follicle is not always turned into white within the patch. It's the last thing which will turn into white when compared to the normal skin. And neural causes, the nerve endings may secrete some toxic substances which are detrimental for the melanocyte. And the clinical features of vitiligo can be based on the presentation. It is divided into many subtypes. The most common presentation is macule or patch of vitiligo. They are round, oval, milky white. These are, we have to remember that these are not hypopigmented patches. They are depigmented, complete loss of pigment. That is very important. And scalloped margins, curved margins, and trichrome or quadrichrome. This is one more feature of vitiligo. Trichrome is nothing but when you have complete depigmented lesions, and in between sometime hypopigmentation also will be present. This is as the disease during the initial progression of the disease, that is called quadrichrome. Trichrome. Quadrichrome is healing lesions when there will be 2 to 3 colors of normal skin color. And confetti like macules also can be present, that is a spast. And inflammatory border is seen in some cases when there is a erythema or during the treatment, and leukotrichia is seen in some cases. Leukotrichia, if it's present, that means it is a very poor prognostic factor for vitiligo. And clinically, I told no, based on the distribution of the lesions or based on the symmetry of the lesions, they are classified into localized and generalized. Localized, again divided into focal or segmental, and generalized, symmetrical, acromucosal, or universalis. So now I won't I will be showing pictures and explaining. Just see, you can easily find out. This is a localized form. It is present in one of the lower limb around the ankle, single patch, and it's not any uniformity is present. Segmental, you can see segmental as it is present, like in case of herpes zoster, based on the distribution of the nerve, the segmental you can see here, you can see on the boy's face. And then this is also segmental, which we can see only over the eyes, and it is spread. And foliosis is nothing but the whitening of the eyelashes and eyebrows. And this is vitiligo vulgaris. Wherever you see vulgaris in dermatology, that means that is the most commonest form. That is so vitiligo vulgaris, symmetrical lesions present on the multiple lesions present on both the sides of the limbs. You can see in this picture. And acromucosal, as the name suggests, acral areas, that is palms and the dorsum of the hands and the soles and dorsum of the feet. And acral also comes like nose, lips, and mucosa. I'll show you. And mucosal lesions can be present generally in the penis and genital areas on the females. And there are many associations in vitiligo. Cutaneous associations are leukotrichia, premature gray hair, halo nevus. Halo nevus is nothing but there will be a nevus surrounding which there will be depigmentation, and alopecia areata, because this alopecia areata is also a autoimmune condition. So vitiligo is also autoimmune. So these conditions, when present, they may be cutaneous associations. And systemic associations, the same principle, because this is an autoimmune condition. There are many diseases which we can see present in association with vitiligo, but they are not. Each one doesn't cause the other, but they are coexistingly present in patients. So some of the examples are thyroid disease, diabetes, Addison's disease, pernicious anemia, and multiple endocrinopathy syndrome. And there are the many differential diagnoses. One is pyebaldism. Pyebaldism is nothing but whitish discoloration of the hair in the anterior frontal part. Pityriasis alba. All these conditions are hypopigmented rather than depigmented, but they give the very close differential diagnosis. Pityriasis alba, Hansen's disease also presents as hypopigmented or depigmented patch. Versicolor. More than all these diseases, morphea and lichen sclerosis are atrophic. These are more close DDs for vitiligo, especially when they are in a mucosal area. But we can differentiate by superficial changes like atrophy will be present in morphea and lichen sclerosis. When compared to vitiligo, no change in the other lesions, only the pigment will be lost. The few examples you can see on the cheek, Hansen's disease for this boy, and LSA, you can see it in the waistline of this in this photo. And treatment guidelines. See, vitiligo is a sign, and the cause of the melanocyte destruction may be not same in every case. Also, there won't be any uniform response to the treatment always. So our main aim for the treatment is either we have to bring back the pigmentation, one, and also we have to prevent the further depigmentation, which will occur as the disease progresses. So to increase the melanin or melanocytes, the options are by promoting the migration. As I told, hair follicle is the last to get affected, like the death of the melanocytes occur later. So we try and try to migrate the melanocytes from the hair follicle bulb and try to increase the number of melanocytes in the normal like vitiligo patch, and activate the dormant melanocytes which are already present but they are non-functional, or increase the production by from the existing functional melanocyte. By these three ways, we can increase the pigment production. And there are many methods, many medicines which we can, topical, systemic medicines available. But as I told before, we never know like how much improvement can be seen in each individual. So there is a protocol which you have to follow. And medical treatment first is Sorolin plus UV radiation. I'll be discussing in detail later. And next is the narrowband UVB radiation, topical and systemic steroids, and topical tacrolimus, topical 5-uracil, topical calcipotriol, placental extracts, and many other, even lasers like excimer. All of you mute the thing. Okay, the treatment options for repigmentation. The topical steroids are used in all types of vitiligo. Based on the site and based on the age of the individual, we have to decide the potency of the steroid. Topical PUVA. PUVA is nothing but photochemotherapy. That is, Sorolins is a drug, and the UV radiation. Both together we combine and give. That is topical PUVA. Systemic PUVA is nothing but Sorolins we give systemically, and then generalized exposure to UV radiation. And to prevent the further depigmentation also, we start early course of systemic steroids. That is based, it can be based if the lesions are less and it is the age of the individual is like more with like if the patient is having diabetes, we always prefer short course or pulse therapies. That is we give 20 mg prednisolone equivalent for few days and then stop and then restart it. That is called a short course or pulse. And injectable, sometimes triamcinolone is also tried at the places, but mostly we give systemic. And PUVA, this is very important here, as you should know the Sorolins are the drugs and UV is the light therapy. Sorolins, there are three available Sorolins in the market, that is trimethoxysorolin, 8-methoxysorolin, and 5-methoxysorolins. That is 0.6 mg per kg body weight is the normal dosage. We generally give 10 mg tablets are available and 20 mg tablets are available. 10 mg tablets are available and 20 mg tablets are available. Based on the body weight, we give them. We tell the patient to take the tablet in the morning along with their breakfast, and then they'll ask to come to the hospital, and where we expose them for the UV radiation. This is a hand and foot unit where you can see, and this is the complete PUVA chamber. Here, the patient is asked to stand inside, the clothes are removed and they're exposed. And what are the responses you get after giving PUVA? Erythema, perifollicular pigmentation, you can see, and rarely edema and vesiculation is seen. But when you see edema and vesiculation, we should cut down the exposure time, and we should tell the patient that is a common side effect and it will come back to me normal. And treatment protocol, you just remember that every week, alternate day, like 3 sittings per week are given. And we start with, as I told, the patient is asked to take the tablet at home. And we start with the first very few minutes, like 2 to 3 minutes we start, and every sitting we increase the 10 to 15 seconds. And at one point, at any particular point, the patient has erythema over the lesions, that is called the end point, minimal erythema dose. That will be noted and that will be continued till we see the response. If after many sittings, as I showed in the flowchart, there is no response, it's better to stop the treatment and go for another option rather than continuing. And one more side effect for this UV radiation is sometimes patients complain that their normal skin is also getting further tanned, but that is the risk the patient has to take in the initial days. And then PUVA therapy, the procedure is, protocol is, if there is good response, we maintain PUVA. And if there is new patches, but the old patches are healing, then we increase the dose. But if there is no any changes, then we stop the PUVA and go for any other treatment modality. And the side effects of PUVA therapy is erythema, pruritus, nausea, headache, and Koebner's phenomenon. Koebner's phenomenon, small point, is a condition in which it's a phenomenon in which when patient has particular dermatological condition, if there is any trauma in the normal skin, there they start developing the dermatological condition. So, for example, if a patient has vitiligo and he fells or he has a trauma over his any arm or anything, there a vitiligo patch develops. That is called Koebner's phenomenon. This can be seen in PUVA therapies. And chronic side effects are like chronic actinic radiation can be seen, damage can be seen, carcinoma can be seen, but very rare. Immunosuppression and premature cataract is one ophthalmic disadvantage which you don't want in your patient. And then topical steroids, as I told, one of the frontline treatment based on the for example, if you're giving it to a child or on the face, then we have to go for the milder formulations, that is hydrocortisone, mometasone, desonide, like that. But if you're giving for adult in the other body parts, now except on the face, then we can go for potent steroids like betamethasone, fluticasone, etc. The side effects are which are common for any type of steroid, that is atrophy and striae. And systemic steroids, we give, as I told, either they are given as pulse or low dose long term oral can be given. Prognostic factors, we have all these conditions. There is very few response for any type of treatment, specifically acrofacial. And on the palms or the lips, these are very difficult to heal, and patches on the bony prominences, for example, over the elbow, etc., also very difficult to heal. And if there is leukotrachea already, it's very difficult for color to come back. And long-standing cases, increasing in the number of lesions, all these are very bad for poor prognostic factors. And one more thing, if they're having any associated autoimmune conditions also, it's very difficult to treat such kind of patients. So when you're educating them only, we should tell them that there is like very little chance, because later it will be a problem after trying all this. And failure to respond to any medical line of treatment indicates that melanocyte reservoir is absent in the is not no more available in that area. So we have to go for surgical modalities. There are many surgical treatments available for vitiligo, and as same like this medical management only, the outcome always depends upon the patient. Some of the examples for surgical managements are tattooing, dermabrasion, excision and closure, spot peeling, punch grafting, and split thickness grafts, suction blister grafts, melanocyte transfer, etc. Just if you can understand the concept, this is too much for you, but if you can understand, you'll have a general idea how it works. See, in the picture, you can see the white patch is the vitiligo patch, and in between you can see those are punches. These punches are taken from normal skin on the other hand or anywhere, and here we create we create punches, and then we take the punch from the normal skin and fix it into this. These are called wells. So slowly, when I'll show you the next picture. See, slowly the surrounding skin, the melanocyte reservoir is formed because of this, and from there the melanocytes start transferring to the vitiligo area, and you can see the slight pigmentation. And slowly this uneven pigmentation will cover, but it will take time definitely. And then split thickness graft is nothing but the whole epidermis is removed from thigh area, and then placed over, we will create a rough raw area over the vitiligo patch, and then we will take the complete split thickness graft from the normal area, and then we'll place it on this, and we will dress it hard, and we'll allow the skin to attach, and from the graft the melanocytes transfer into the vitiliginous area, and then the color develops. So here it is clear. And one more important and most commonly done techniques are suction blister grafting. Here nothing but we take a like large syringe, like 10 ml, 20 ml syringe. We cut the ends, and we put it on the normal skin, and we create a negative pressure by pulling back the suction. So there will be a formation of blister. Then we remove the injection, and then the blister graft is taken from the roof of the blister, and it is placed over the, see, for this person on the lip we did this, and you can see how it is covered after pasting the blister graft. Same here, the mechanism is always same. We are transferring the melanocytes from the normal area to the vitiligo area, and the response is always like as I told, depends upon the grading of the like location of the vitiligo and the health condition of the patient, all these things, and then only we can see the result. For some people it will give like 99 90% 95% coverage, but for some people it will be very less. So next class we'll be talking about lichen planus, and for today vitiligo. Thank you all of you. Did you keep your attendance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Next class will continue with the other diseases, common diseases, next Monday.
Okay, ma'am.